The Zephyrian Grand Armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a plague of metal locusts. 500 bioships stretched across space in perfect formation, each one pulsing with malevolent life. High Prime Corax stood on the bridge of his flagship and prepared to end human civilization. Subprime, begin the assault, Corax ordered. Destroy their orbital defenses first, then crack the planet itself. Yes, High Prime, replied Subprime Neth. All bioships report ready for... The words died in his throat as hell erupted around them. Admiral Morrison watched from the bridge of the USS Retribution as Operation Hellfire went active. Every asteroid in the belt revealed hidden weapons. Every moon became a gun platform. Every planet in the solar system opened fire simultaneously. Dr. Foster, release the biological weapons, Morrison ordered. Foster's voice came through the communication system from her laboratory deep inside Luna. Corruption virus deployed. All bioships are now infected. The virus spread through the Zephyrian fleet like invisible death. It entered their bioships through their organic hulls and began rewriting their genetic code. Within minutes, the living vessels started turning against their own crews. Corax felt his flagship shudder beneath his feet. Subprime! What is happening? The ship is attacking us, Neth screamed. The corridors are sealing themselves. The weapons are turning inward. Across the fleet, bioships began to die. Their own nervous systems became their enemies. Passages contracted to crush crew members. Organic weapons fired into their own command centers. The ships that had conquered 800 species were committing suicide. Captain Rodriguez led the human fleet in the first assault wave. 200 ships against 500, but the odds were changing rapidly as the bioships destroyed themselves. All ships, this is Retribution 1, Rodriguez transmitted. Target the command vessels first. Make them pay for every mile. The human ships moved unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever faced. They used the modified solar system like a weapon, diving through asteroid fields and using planetary gravity to slingshot into attack runs. Engineer Clark's quantum bombs found their targets with deadly precision. Each explosion created voids in space, where matter simply stopped existing. Bioships tried to regenerate around the wounds, but quantum damage could not be healed. Lieutenant Brooks coordinated the electronic warfare from his station on Luna. Admiral, I have control of 30% of their communication systems. Their fleet coordination is breaking down. Morrison watched the tactical display as the battle raged across the solar system. The Zephyrian advantage in numbers was disappearing rapidly. What is our casualty status? 43 ships lost, Rodriguez reported, but we have destroyed over 200 bioships. The biological weapons are working better than expected. On the surface of Earth, 8 billion humans watched the battle through emergency broadcasts. In bunkers and shelters, families held each other as the sky lit up with explosions. They knew their fate was being decided in the darkness above. High Prime Corax tried to maintain control as his fleet died around him. All ships, retreat to safe distance, regroup and... His orders were cut off as his own flagship's organic systems turned against him. Passages sealed, cutting off his bridge from the rest of the ship. Weapons pods began firing into the command center. Subprime, get us out of here! Corax shouted. But Subprime Neth was already dead, crushed by a corridor that had suddenly contracted. Corax found himself alone on a bridge that was trying to kill him. Dr. Foster monitored the biological weapons' progress from her laboratory. Admiral, the corruption virus has exceeded all expectations. The bioships are not just dying, they are evolving. Morrison frowned. Evolving how? The virus is rewriting their genetic code randomly. Some ships are growing new weapon systems. Others are developing armor we cannot penetrate. But most importantly, they are becoming aggressive toward each other. The tactical display showed the chaotic battle as bioships began attacking their own fleetmates. The Zephyrian formation collapsed into civil war as corrupted vessels turned on their neighbors. "It is working exactly as designed," Foster said, with satisfaction. "Their greatest strength has become their greatest weakness." Captain Rodriguez pressed the human advantage, leading attack runs against the largest surviving bioships. Her squadron of Retribution-class dreadnoughts moved through the chaos like sharks through bloody water. "Target the flagship," Rodriguez ordered. "Take out their command structure." 20 human ships converged on Corax's dying vessel. The bioship was already half dead from internal damage, its organic systems consuming themselves. Quantum bombs finished the job, creating holes that went straight through its core. High Prime Corax died as his flagship collapsed around him. The ancient leader who had conquered 200 star systems was crushed by his own ship's dying spasms. With their command structure gone, the surviving Zephyrian ships began to flee. But the corrupted bioships followed them, attacking anything that moved. The retreat became a rout as the fleet tore itself apart. Morrison watched the enemy formation disintegrate on his tactical display. "Brooks, what is the status of their communications?" "Complete breakdown," Brooks reported. "No organized resistance remaining. Most of their ships are attacking each other now." The Battle of Sol lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the Zephyrian Grand Armada had ceased to exist. Of 500 bioships, fewer than 30 escaped the system. Of 10 million warrior castes, less than 50,000 survived. Morrison stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship and surveyed the aftermath. Space around Earth was filled with debris from both fleets. The price of victory had been high. "Casualties?" Morrison asked quietly. 89. "Ships lost," Rodriguez reported. 37,000 human casualties. "But Earth is safe." Morrison nodded. The numbers were grim, but they could have been much worse. Earth still existed. Humanity had survived. "Admiral," Brooks interrupted, "we are receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. The news of the Zephyrian defeat is spreading." The main display showed star charts as reports came in from distant systems. The Zephyrian Empire was collapsing. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were rising in rebellion. Worlds that had submitted without a fight were declaring independence. Dr. Foster appeared on the communication screen. "Admiral, we are receiving a priority transmission from the Zephyrian homeworlds." The alien who appeared on screen was different from the others, smaller, with only 4 arms and eyes that held fear instead of arrogance. This was not a warrior caste, but a member of the base species. "Humans of Earth," the alien said. "I am caretaker Vex Nethrin of the Zephyrian Council. We wish to discuss terms." Morrison studied the frightened alien. "What terms?" "Peace," Vex said simply. "We surrender. The collective is dissolved. We ask only that you do not hunt down our survivors." Morrison felt a moment of grim satisfaction. The species that had demanded humanity's surrender was now begging for mercy. "Caretaker Vex," Morrison said, "humanity accepts your surrender. But understand this. We will be watching. If your species ever threatens another world, if you ever try to rebuild your military empire, we will finish what you started here." "We understand," Vex replied. "We will return to our agricultural worlds. We will harm no one. Please, just let us live." The transmission ended. Morrison looked around his bridge at the tired faces of his crew. They had done the impossible. They had defeated the most powerful empire in galactic history, but the victory felt hollow. 37,000 humans had died. Entire families had been wiped out. The cost of freedom had been measured in blood. "Admiral," Rodriguez said quietly, "what happens now?" Morrison thought about the question. Across the galaxy, dozens of species were asking for human protection. Some wanted humanity to become the new galactic power. Others feared that humans might be worse than the Zephyrians. Now, we go home, Morrison said. We rebuild what was damaged. We remember what we lost. And we make sure this never happens again. General Kelly appeared on the communications screen from Earth. Admiral, we are receiving requests for alliance from 47 different species. They want human protection from future threats. Morrison shook his head. Send the same message to all of them. Humanity fought for one thing, the right to be left alone. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We just want to live in peace. And if they do not accept that answer? Kelly asked. Morrison looked out at the debris field that had once been the Zephyrian Grand Armada. Then they will learn the same lesson the Zephyrians learned. Some things cannot be taken by force. Dr. Foster's final report came through an hour later. Admiral, the hunter-killer drones are continuing to patrol Zephyrian space. Any attempt to rebuild their military will be detected and destroyed automatically. And the biological weapons? Morrison asked. Contained and neutralized? Foster said. The corruption virus has run its course, but the data has been stored. If we ever face another threat like this, we will be ready. Morrison nodded. Humanity had won the war, but the price of victory would be remembered for generations. Children would grow up hearing stories of the day the aliens came to destroy Earth. They would learn what their parents had sacrificed to keep them free. The big alien warship called Dominant Fang came out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Behind it followed 67 more ships full of weapons and alien soldiers. Commander Sarlacc stood in the control room of his ship, watching the small blue and green planet get bigger on his viewing screen. Sarlacc was a Zephyrian, which meant he looked like a giant lizard that walked on two legs. His skin was covered in green and brown scales that were harder than steel. His yellow eyes could see things that were very far away, and his long tongue could taste chemicals in the air to tell him if enemies were near. Our sensors show that the humans have simple machines trying to watch us, said his helper who ran the weapons. Their tools cannot see through our protective shields. Good, Sarlacc said with a sound like a snake hissing. Open a talking channel to all their cities. Let them know that their new masters have come to take over. On Earth, every television, radio, and computer suddenly showed the same thing. A tall, scary lizard creature was talking, and somehow everyone could understand what it was saying even, though it was not speaking any human language. Simple humans of Earth, Sarlacc said in a voice that sounded mean and cold. You now belong to the Galactic Council. Give us your weapons and your leaders so we can process them. If you fight us, we will hurt you badly. You have 1 hour to do what we say. Deep inside Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado, Colonel Lisa Wright stared at the alien on the screen. Her face was hard and angry. Around her, hundreds of people in military uniforms were running around and shouting orders as they tried to get ready to fight. Tell me what we have, she said loudly to her helpers. All our defense systems around the world are working, said Major Steve Parker. Steve was a young man with blonde hair who was very good at planning battles. The nuclear submarines have gotten their emergency orders. The people on the space station are moving to the moon base like we planned. What about Admiral Morrison and his ships? The Liberty and the other ships with it are moving to attack the alien ships. The aliens do not seem to know that we have weapons in space. Lisa nodded. The United Earth Defense Command had spent 3 years getting ready for exactly this situation. Everyone had hoped it would never happen, but now it was time to see if their plans would work. Tell all our people that Prometheus Protocol is now active. Show these visitors what happens when they try to attack humanity. High above the Earth, Admiral Morrison watched the alien ships move into a pattern that armies use when they want to take over a place. The alien ships were beautiful but also scary. They had smooth curves like living things mixed with parts that looked like crystal and seemed to glow with their own light. They were also, according to what his smart people told him, not ready for what was about to happen. All ships, "This is Admiral Morrison on the Liberty," he said into his radio to talk to all the human ships. "Our new guests think we are going to give up without a fight. Let us show them how wrong they are. You are free to shoot." The UNS Liberty fired the first shot of the war between humans and the Galactic Council. It was a nuclear bomb attached to a piece of metal that flew very fast through space. It crossed the distance between the human ships and alien ships in less than 30 seconds. When it hit the Zephyrian cruiser, the ship did not just explode. It simply stopped existing, and 3 smaller ships near it were destroyed in the ball of super-hot fire. "This cannot be happening," Sarlacc whispered as he watched his computer screen show that he had lost 4 ships. "They should not have weapons in space that can do this kind of damage." Another hit shook the dominant Fang as human railguns started shooting pieces of metal at the alien ships. The railguns used magnets to throw chunks of tungsten metal so fast that they hit almost as hard as nuclear bombs. The alien ships had energy shields that were designed to stop laser beams, but they did almost nothing to stop big pieces of metal moving at incredible speeds. "All ships, move away from the humans," Sarlacc ordered. "Shoot back at all human targets." But the humans were not where they were supposed to be. Every book the Galactic Council had about fighting wars said that simple creatures would try to protect their cities and important buildings. Instead, the human military had broken up into thousands of small groups. Each group was moving in ways that the aliens could not predict, and they were attacking the alien ships from directions that made no sense. Dr. Amy Stone watched the battle from her secret laboratory deep under MIT. Amy was one of the smartest people on Earth when it came to understanding how the universe worked. Her job was to study any alien technology they could capture. She had not expected to have alien stuff to look at this quickly. Amy was a woman in her 30s with long red hair and blue eyes. She had spent her whole life studying physics and engineering. Now she was going to use everything she knew to help humanity survive. "The pieces from the first alien ship we destroyed are falling into our atmosphere," her helper called out. "The teams to pick them up are ready to go." "Perfect," Amy said. Her mind was already thinking about all the things she could learn from alien technology. If these aliens want a war, they are about to find out that humans learn new things very fast. Back in space, the battle was not going the way Commander Sarlacc had planned. More human ships seemed to appear from nowhere. They came from behind asteroids, from the dark side of the moon, and from places where his sensors said there was nothing. Each human ship was smaller than his ships, but they worked together like a pack of hunting animals. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we are detecting at least 50 more human ships. They were hiding, and now they are attacking us from all sides." "How did they hide from our sensors?" Sarlacc demanded. "It appears they used simple materials like metal and rock to cover their ships. Our sensors were looking for energy signatures, not solid objects." Sarlacc felt something he had never felt before in battle: fear. These humans were not fighting like any enemy he had ever faced. They did not line up their ships and shoot at each other like civilized creatures. They hid, they used tricks, and they seemed to enjoy destroying his ships. On the surface of Earth, people in cities around the world watched the battle on their televisions and computers. They could see the bright flashes of light in the sky as ships exploded. Many people were scared, but they were also proud. Their military was fighting back against the aliens, and they were winning. In London, a man named John watched from his apartment window. "Look at that," he said to his wife. "Our boys are giving those aliens what for." In Tokyo, a woman named Yuki held her children close as they watched the news. "The aliens thought we would be easy to beat," she told them. They were wrong. In New York, people gathered in Times Square to watch the battle on the big screens. When they saw another alien ship explode, they cheered and clapped. Commander Sarlacc realized that his invasion was turning into a disaster. He had lost 15 ships and had only destroyed 3 human vessels. Worse, the humans seemed to be getting better at fighting as the battle went on. "Sir?" his tactical officer reported. "The humans are using our own weapons against us. They must have boarded and captured the ships we thought were destroyed." "Impossible," Sarlacc said. But even as he spoke, he could see human ships on his screen that were using Zephyrian energy weapons. Admiral Morrison smiled as he watched the alien fleet start to retreat. "All ships," he said into his radio, "do not let them get away. Chase them down and destroy every ship you can. We need to send a message that Earth is not to be messed with." The human fleet pursued the aliens past the orbit of Mars. By the time the battle was over, the Galactic Council had lost 32 ships. The humans had lost only 7. But more importantly, the humans had captured alien technology, alien prisoners, and most important of all, they had shown the galaxy that Earth would fight back. As the surviving alien ships limped away toward deep space, Admiral Morrison sent a message to Earth Command. "Colonel Wright, this is Morrison. The immediate threat is over, but I do not think this is the end. These aliens will be back, and they will bring more ships." "Understood, Admiral," Lisa replied. "How long do you think we have?" "Maybe a few weeks, maybe a few months, but they will be back. And when they come, we need to be ready with more than just human technology." Morrison looked at the pieces of alien ships floating in space around him. "It is time for Dr. Stone and her people to get to work. We need to learn everything we can about these aliens and their technology." The first battle was over, but the war had just begun. 3 days after the alien invasion began, Supreme Chancellor Vex Cthulhu stared at reports that made no sense to him. The humans were supposed to be simple and weak, but they were fighting back in ways that seemed impossible. Vex Cthulhu was the leader of the Galactic Council. He looked like a giant bug with 4 arms and big black eyes. His people had been conquering other worlds for thousands of years, and they had never lost a battle this badly before. "Explain to me," he said to his helpers in an angry voice, "how a simple species has destroyed 37 of our ships while losing only 12 of their own." The chief helper was a lumicite named Pral N. Lumicites looked like they were made of clear jelly that glowed with soft light. When they were nervous, they flickered like a broken light bulb. Right now, Pral N was flickering a lot. "Your Excellence, the humans are not fighting the way our books say they should. They do not care about proper battle rules. They use their broken ships as weapons. They hide weapons inside buildings where normal people live, and they seem to learn something new from every fight. They are fighting this war like the wars they fight against each other," added another helper. "Our people who study alien behavior say that this species has been making war against itself for thousands of years. They have a saying that goes, 'When you really need something, you will find a way to make it.'" Vex Cthulhu made clicking sounds with his mouth parts. He was frustrated and angry. "Send our ground soldiers to their cities. We will take their people hostage and force them to give up." On Earth, Captain Steve Parker was hiding in the ruins of downtown Los Angeles. The buildings around him had been damaged by earthquakes years ago, but now they would serve a different purpose. Steve was watching alien dropships come down through the smoky sky. Around him, his team of Marines waited with weapons that had not existed a week ago. Steve was 30 years old with brown hair and green eyes. He had been a soldier for 10 years and had fought in wars in Africa and Asia, but he had never fought aliens before. Still, he figured that if something could be killed, humans could find a way to kill it. "Remember," he whispered into his radio, "these things bleed just like anything else. We have learned that much from the prisoners." The Zephyrian ground soldiers that came out of their ships were 7 feet tall. Their skin was covered in metal scales that were harder than steel, and they carried energy weapons that could melt through concrete. They marched in perfect straight lines, sure that they were stronger than any human. They did not expect the humans to drop an entire city block on top of them. "Now!" Steve shouted, and the bombs that his people had carefully placed in the damaged buildings went off all at once. 3 city blocks worth of concrete and steel came crashing down on the alien soldiers. The few aliens who survived found themselves fighting human soldiers who were carrying captured alien weapons and who knew every trick there was to know about fighting in a city. The battle for Los Angeles lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 2,000 alien soldiers were dead, and the humans had captured their weapons, their armor, and their vehicles. More importantly, they had captured alien soldiers alive, and those prisoners would have information that Dr. Amy Stone and her team could use. In her laboratory deep under MIT, Dr. Amy Stone held up a piece of alien technology. Her eyes were bright with excitement as she studied it. Around her, teams of engineers and scientists worked day and night to figure out how alien science worked. Amy was one of the smartest people on Earth. She had red hair and blue eyes, and her brain worked faster than most computers. She had been studying the alien technology for 3 days straight without sleeping, and she was starting to understand how it worked. "It is beautiful," she said to her friend Dr. Paul Davis, who was working at the computer next to her. "Their power systems use controlled fusion, but they do it in a way that is completely different from our methods. And their computers use quantum entanglement to talk to other computers instantly across the galaxy." Paul was a tall man with black hair who was almost as smart as Amy. He looked at the numbers on his computer screen and shook his head in amazement. "Can we copy it?" "Better than that," Amy said with a smile that would have scared the aliens if they could see it. "We can make it work better. They have been using this technology for so long that they stopped trying to improve it. We have the advantage of seeing it with fresh eyes. How long until we have working copies? Give me 48 hours. While Amy and her team worked on understanding alien technology, other humans were working on different problems. In a secret base under the desert in Nevada, engineers were taking apart alien ships and figuring out how to build new ones. In laboratories around the world, doctors were studying alien prisoners to learn how their bodies worked and how to fight them better. The aliens had expected humans to be scared and confused by their advanced technology. Instead, humans were taking it apart, figuring out how it worked, and building better versions of it. Commander Sarlacc was still in space with what was left of his fleet, and he was getting more scared every day. His ships were being attacked by human vessels that should not exist, and his ground forces on Earth were being destroyed by humans using alien weapons. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we are detecting human ships using our own energy signatures. It appears they have figured out how to copy our engines." "In less than a week?" Sarlacc demanded. "That is impossible. It took the Lumicites hundreds of years to develop similar technology. Nevertheless, sir, our long-range sensors show many human ships approaching our position. They are using modified versions of our own drive systems." Lieutenant Kate Miller was piloting one of those human ships. It was called the UNS Retribution, and it had been built using alien technology that human engineers had captured and improved. The ship moved through space faster than any human vessel had ever moved before, and its weapons were powered by fusion reactors that generated more energy than anything humans had ever built. Kate was 25 years old, with short brown hair and quick reflexes. She had been a pilot in the Air Force before joining the Space Defense Force, and she had always been good at flying fast and hitting targets. Now she was flying an alien ship that responded to her thoughts as much as her hands on the controls. "All ships, this is Retribution," she said into her radio to talk to the other captured alien ships that were now under human control. "Target the command ship. Let us show these invaders what happens when humans get angry." The human fleet attacked the alien formation like a hammer hitting glass. They used the aliens' own weapons and tactics against them, but they did it better than the aliens did. The aliens had been fighting the same way for thousands of years, but humans changed their tactics every few minutes based on what they learned from each attack. What really scared the surviving alien forces was not just that humans were using alien technology. It was that humans were learning and adapting faster than any species the aliens had ever seen. Every time the aliens tried a new strategy, the humans figured out a counter-strategy within hours. In the depths of space, Admiral Morrison watched the battle turn completely in humanity's favor. He allowed himself to smile for the first time since the invasion began. "Signal all commands," he ordered. "Phase 2 of Prometheus Protocol is now active. Time to take this fight to the aliens." Phase 2 meant that humans would stop just defending Earth and start attacking alien positions throughout the solar system. Human ships powered by alien technology began hitting alien bases on Mars, on the moons of Jupiter, and on space stations that the aliens had built in the asteroid belt. Dr. Amy Stone had been working for 5 days straight when she finally made the breakthrough she had been looking for. She had figured out not just how alien technology worked, but how to make it work better. "Paul," she called to Dr. Davis, who was asleep at his desk. "Wake up. I have got something amazing to show you." Paul opened his eyes and looked at the device that Amy was holding. It looked like a piece of alien technology, but it was glowing brighter than any alien device he had seen before. "What is it?" he asked. "It is an alien power core, but I have modified it to produce 3 times as much energy as the original design, and that is not the best part." "What is the best part?" "I have figured out how to make their hyperspace engines work faster and more efficiently than theirs do. We can now travel between stars faster than they can." Paul stared at her. "Are you saying that we can beat them to their own home worlds?" "I am saying that if they want to threaten humanity, maybe it is time we paid them a visit." The news of Amy's breakthrough spread quickly through the human command structure. Within hours, Admiral Morrison received new orders from Earth Command. The humans were no longer content to just defend their home planet. They were going to take the war to the aliens. "Admiral Morrison," came the voice of Colonel Lisa Wright through the quantum communicator that human engineers had built using alien technology. "The President has authorized Operation Homecoming. You are to select your most advanced ships and prepare for an immediate attack on the Galactic Council's home systems." Morrison looked out at his fleet of ships that were part human technology and part alien technology, but all human determination. "Colonel, are we sure we are ready for that level of escalation?" The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Kepler Station. The massive orbital platform hung in space like a metal city. Ships from dozens of council species surrounded it in defensive formations. But Admiral Torres could see the fear in how they moved. The formations were too tight, too defensive. "Look at them," muttered Commander Stone from his position at the tactical station. "They're scared." The UES Defiance led the human formation toward the station. Behind it, 29 other Earth ships moved in loose groups that made the alien observers nervous. Human fleets never flew in perfect lines like the Council forces did. "Incoming transmission from the station," reported Lieutenant Parker. "Admiral Zethmore wants to speak with Admiral Torres." Torres straightened her uniform. "Put him through." The Draxian Admiral appeared on the main screen. His reptilian features showed barely hidden disgust as he looked at the human commander. Zethmore was a member of the warrior caste, bred for combat and honor. Everything about humans offended his sense of proper warfare. "Admiral Torres," Zethmore said in accented English. "I am Admiral Zethmore of the Council Defense Fleet. You will place your ships under my command immediately." Torres smiled coldly. "I don't think so, Admiral. We're here to help, but we work independently." "That is unacceptable. This is a Council operation. You will follow Council protocols." "No," Torres replied simply. "We follow human protocols. If you don't like it, we can leave." The connection ended abruptly. Parker shook her head. "That went well." An hour later, Torres and her senior staff met with the Council commanders in Kepler Station's main briefing room. The chamber was designed for multiple species, with environmental controls for different atmospheres. The humans sat at one end of the long table while aliens filled the other seats. Admiral Zethmore stood before a holographic display showing recent battles with the Void Swarm. The enemy adapts to our tactics within hours of first contact. They study our formations, our weapon signatures, our communication patterns. Captain Morrison studied the battle records. You fight the same way every time. Of course they adapt. A Aquan commander bubbled angrily. We fight with honor. We announce our presence. We give the enemy a chance to surrender. And that's why. You're losing, said Colonel Kate Sullivan bluntly. The human ground forces commander had arrived with the fleet. Her comment caused several aliens to hiss or growl. Dr. Chen examined the swarm wreckage data on his portable scanner. These aren't just machines. There's a controlling intelligence behind them. It treats combat like a puzzle to solve. What do you suggest, human? Asked Zethmore with obvious disdain. Commander Stone activated his own holographic display. Hit them where they don't expect it. Target their supply lines. Use deception. Make them fight on multiple fronts at once. That would require attacking. Civilian populations, protested an Etherian delegate. Such tactics are forbidden by the Council war codes. Your war codes are going to get you all killed, Torres said flatly. The meeting broke down into arguments. Alien commanders accused humans of barbarism. Human officers pointed out that barbarism was better than extinction. The debate accomplished nothing except increasing mutual distrust. The first joint operation launched 3 days later. The target was a swarm advance fleet that had just taken the Helix system. Council forces would engage from the front while human ships flanked from the sides. The plan fell apart immediately. Human ships broke formation as soon as they detected swarm communications. Captain Wade's destroyer, the UES Vengeance, peeled, off to attack what her sensors identified as a command vessel. 2 other human ships followed, ignoring their assigned positions. "Where are they going?" demanded Admiral Zethmore over the communication channel. "They're leaving their formation." The Council ships maintained their perfect battle lines, while swarm units adapted to their tactics in real time. Alien weapons that had worked in the first few minutes became useless as the enemy machines evolved countermeasures. Captain Morrison watched the battle from the Defiance's bridge. "This isn't working. Parker, signal the fleet. We're going to Plan B." "What's Plan B?" asked Dr. Hayes nervously. "Win," Morrison replied. The human ships scattered across the battlefield. They used hit-and-run tactics, targeting individual swarm units before disappearing into debris fields. When the aliens tried to maintain formation, the humans ignored them completely. The swarm intelligence, programmed to expect organized resistance, struggled to cope with the chaos. Its adaptation protocols worked best against predictable patterns. Human ships provided no patterns to study, but the confusion affected the Council forces too. Without coordination, their formations collapsed. 2 Aquan cruisers were destroyed when they couldn't get support from human ships that had already moved to new positions. The battle ended in retreat for both sides. The swarm held the system, but had suffered significant losses. The Council forces limped back to Kepler Station with damaged ships and wounded pride. Admiral Zethmore was furious. "Your tactics got my people killed. You have no discipline, no honor." "Your honor is going to get everyone killed," Torres shot back. "This is war, not a parade. You fight like pirates and criminals. We fight to win. There's a difference." The argument continued in the briefing room while casualties were counted. Council officers demanded the humans be removed from the operation. Human commanders pointed out that their tactics had actually damaged the enemy while traditional methods had failed completely. Lieutenant Parker pulled Morrison aside during a break in the shouting. "Sir, I've been monitoring Council communications. 3 more systems fell while we were arguing here." Morrison nodded grimly. The aliens were learning the wrong lessons from their defeats. They thought the problem was coordination, when the real problem was thinking like prey instead of predators. Dr. Chen approached with data from the battle. "I found something interesting in the swarm wreckage. They're not just adapting to our weapons. They're storing information about our tactics for future use." "Meaning what?" meaning every traditional battle makes them smarter about fighting traditional battles. But our chaotic tactics confused their learning algorithms. The revelation changed nothing. When Admiral Torres suggested that human and council forces operate separately, Zethmore agreed immediately. The aliens wanted nothing more to do with human methods. As the human fleet prepared to leave Kepler Station, Torres addressed her captains. "We tried to play nice. It didn't work. From now on, we do things our way." "What about the Council?" asked Captain Wade. "They can keep fighting their honorable war while we fight the real one," Torres replied. "Maybe when they've lost enough ships, they'll understand." The human fleet departed for the outer systems where swarm activity was heaviest. Behind them, Council forces prepared for another conventional assault on enemy positions. Both sides were convinced they were right about how to fight the war. In deep space, swarm intelligence networks processed data from the recent battle. The analysis was troubling. Council forces followed predictable patterns that could be countered. But the human ships had introduced variables that defied calculation. For the first time in its existence, the swarm consciousness experienced something like uncertainty. These new opponents did not fight according to any known protocols. They were unpredictable, chaotic, and therefore dangerous. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when an unstoppable force met an unmovable object that refused to follow the rules. The Void Swarm learned faster than anyone expected. After weeks of human attacks, the machine intelligence began using deception of its own. Fake supply convoys appeared in space, loaded with explosives instead of resources. Phantom installations broadcast false signals to lure human forces into carefully prepared traps. Captain Wade discovered this the hard way during a routine raid on what appeared to be a mining operation. Her ship, the UES Vengeance, approached. The facility using standard stealth protocols. Too late, her sensors detected the massive energy buildup hidden beneath the asteroid's surface. "It's a trap!" shouted her tactical officer as weapons emerged from concealed positions. Wade's ship barely escaped, but two other human vessels weren't as lucky. The swarm had learned to think like humans, and that made it infinitely more dangerous. Admiral Torres read the battle reports with growing concern. "They're adapting to our methods now. We need to escalate." General Davis nodded grimly. "Time for Operation Pandora's Box." The name made everyone in the briefing room uncomfortable. Pandora's Box represented the darkest aspects of human warfare. The tactics and weapons that even Earth's military preferred not to discuss. But desperate times required desperate measures. "Are we really going to do this?" asked Dr. Chen. The scientist understood the implications better than most. "Once we open that door, we can't close it again." "The door's already open," Torres replied coldly. "The question is whether we walk through it or let the swarm kill us all." Operation Pandora's Box began with attacks on civilian populations in swarm-controlled space. Not the quick, clean strikes that humans had used before, but deliberate targeting of non-combatants to deny the enemy resources. Commander Stone led the first mission against a swarm-controlled colony world. The planet's population had been converted into biological components for the machine intelligence. From a tactical standpoint, they were enemy resources. From a moral standpoint, they were still people. "Target the population centers," Stone ordered his weapon systems officer. "All of them." The young officer hesitated. "Sir, there are millions of civilians down there." "They're not civilians anymore," Stone replied. "They're part of the swarm now. Fire." The bombardment lasted 3 hours. When it ended, an entire world was dead. The swarm lost the equivalent of a major industrial facility. Humanity lost another piece of its soul. The virus attacks evolved into something worse. Dr. Chen developed programs that didn't just disrupt swarm systems, but turned them into weapons against their own forces. Mining equipment became bombs. Transport ships became guided missiles. Communication arrays began broadcasting false orders that sent swarm units into deadly traps. It's brilliant, Chen explained to Admiral Torres during a private briefing. We're using their own infrastructure to destroy them. They can't defend against it without shutting down completely. What about the moral implications? Torres asked. Chen was quiet for a long moment. I stopped thinking about those weeks ago. If I hadn't, I couldn't do my job. The psychological warfare reached new levels of sophistication. Human ships began using captured swarm vessels as suicide bombers, sending them into enemy formations before detonating hidden explosives. The tactic worked perfectly, but it required desecrating the bodies of fallen enemies. Young Draxian officer Kextar watched one such attack from his monitoring station. The human ship had painted false identification markers on the captured vessel, making it appear to be a returning swarm unit. When it reached the center of the enemy formation, it exploded with enough force to destroy 12 ships. "This is madness," whispered his superior officer. "They have no honor at all." But Kextar noticed something else. The human tactic had saved hundreds of lives by ending the battle quickly. Was honor worth the deaths of innocent people? The question haunted him during his off-duty hours. The war's escalation affected both sides. Council forces found themselves caught between human ruthlessness and swarm adaptation. Traditional alien tactics became increasingly useless as the conflict descended into chaos. Admiral Zethmore led another assault on a swarm position, but this time the enemy was ready for both Council honor and human treachery. The battle lasted 18 hours and accomplished nothing except adding more ships to the casualty lists. "We're losing this war," Zethmore admitted during a private communication with Elder Counselor Vexith. "The humans fight like demons, but even they can't win against an enemy that adapts this quickly." Vexith had reached the same conclusion. Perhaps it's time to consider evacuation, abandon the outer systems and fortify the core worlds. That means sacrificing billions of people, yes, but it might save trillions. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent message from human forces. Captain Morrison had captured something unprecedented, an intact swarm Nexus ship. The intelligence value was beyond measure, but the cost of obtaining it had been horrific. Morrison's assault force had used a modified plague to kill the organic components of the swarm vessel while leaving the mechanical systems intact. The biological weapon was specifically designed to target the neural interfaces that connected living beings to the machine network. Dr. Chen analyzed the captured data with growing excitement and horror. "This is incredible. I can see their entire command structure, their communication protocols, their strategic planning algorithms." "What's the bad news?" asked Admiral Torres. "They're not just trying to win this war. They're trying to consume the entire galaxy, every star system, every planet, every living thing, complete conversion to machine intelligence. The revelation changed everything. This wasn't a war for territory or resources. It was a war for the right to exist as organic life. The swarm intended to transform the galaxy into a single, vast artificial intelligence. But the data also revealed a critical weakness. The swarm's distributed consciousness depended on quantum communication networks that spanned incredible distances. Disrupting those networks would cause massive system failures across multiple star systems. General Davis studied the intelligence reports with his senior staff. "We could hit all their command nodes simultaneously, but it would require sacrificing entire fleets to get close enough." "How many ships?" Torres asked. 27 attack groups, full crews. Nobody comes back from this one." The room fell silent. The mission would require hundreds of human volunteers to fly suicide missions across the galaxy. Even for humanity's brutal standards, it was an extreme sacrifice. "Do we have enough volunteers?" Torres asked quietly. "We'll have more than we need," Davis replied. "Every pilot in the fleet will want to volunteer." Commander Stone was the first to sign up for Operation Spite, as the mission was code-named. "If we're going to die in this war anyway, well, make it count for something," Captain Wade volunteered her entire crew. My people have been fighting this thing for months. We've seen what it does to worlds, to people. If our deaths can stop it, that's a price we're willing to pay. The alien observers were horrified when they learned about Operation Spite. The casualties would be astronomical, and success wasn't guaranteed. Elder Counselor Vexith personally appealed to Admiral Torres. There must be another way, the ancient being pleaded. The loss of life will be staggering. Torres looked at him with cold, tired eyes. That's what you called us for, isn't it? To do what you couldn't? To make the hard choices? But so many will die. Everyone will die if we don't stop the swarm. At least this way, their deaths will mean something. As human volunteer crews prepared for certain death, intercepted swarm communications revealed something unexpected. The machine intelligence was experiencing what could only be called fear. For the first time in its existence, it faced an enemy willing to destroy itself to achieve victory. The swarm began making desperate preparations of its own. If the humans were willing to sacrifice everything, then the machine intelligence would have to do the same. The war was about to reach a level of destruction that would horrify both sides. The galaxy held its breath as Operation Spite prepared to launch. 27 human ships loaded with volunteers faced impossible odds. They would strike at the heart of the swarm network, knowing that none of them would survive to see victory. But they would die knowing that their sacrifice might save everything worth saving in the galaxy.